Welcome back to the Trailhead, where today we're building a gravel bike, but as always, on a budget. Check us out on other platforms. So for some time, my father has been wanting a gravel bike. He got my budget bike build from last year, the Diamondback Topanga that we did on the budget bike build video series, and he really enjoyed it, but it didn't check all the boxes for him. And then more researching he did, he realized a gravel bike was the perfect bike for him. The only problem is he's kind of like me and doesn't want to spend a lot of money. So my goal was to build him a gravel bike for not a lot of money. And it's easier than you think it is. See, gravel bikes have been around since the beginning of mountain bikes. Most mountain bike companies have made gravel bikes since the beginning of mountain bikes. You just don't realize it. For years, mountain bike companies would take their standard road bike, adjust the dimensions, and put 26-inch wheels on it. So they're already kind of set up for being a gravel bike. A lot of XC bikes are in this category. Another thing a lot of companies have done since the beginning is they have made what they call hybrids, like the Specialized Cross Track, I believe, and the Trek Multi-Track, or the Giant Roam. This is Giant's hybrid bike. It's a pretty nice affordable bike for $950. Once again, I didn't pay that. We got it on used because that's one of the best ways to get decent bikes without spending a lot of money. And we were able to pick this up for $350. But this isn't a standard Giant Roam. It's been upgraded with a few features. So first off, this bike was already a 1x, but they upgraded the lower bottom bracket with external bearings. They also upgraded the drivetrain to a Diora 10-speed. So this has an 11 to 46 tooth range, which is awesome. This is a really good setup. This bike came stock with hydraulic brakes, which is something my father was looking for, but to get that on gravel bikes, it can get pretty pricey. So let me show you how we're going to do that for under $600. You use a different type of drop bar. Surly makes an awesome drop bar similar to this. This is a Chinese carbon knockoff, which the reviews I was reading, it actually had pretty good reviews. So we're definitely going to try this out and see how it does. Another upgrade we're going to do is a rigid carbon fork. So that way we cut the weight down, but we also have a rigid fork, which is something my father wants. So let's start tearing the bike and start getting it equipped. So we're going to use the stem, but we're not going to use these handlebars. So let's go ahead and pull everything off the cockpit and pull these handlebars off. Alright, that's all off. Let's go ahead and drop that fork. There we go. Forgot to undo the brakes. I'm doing that now. And undoing the bolt here so I can pull the brake off the fork. Before I add this fork to my parts bin, we got to pull off this crown race right here, which should just pry right up, but it takes some time normally. So I'm going to work on prying this off so I can put it on our new fork. So I'll be back in just... Well, I only broke a screwdriver and a chisel, but I got it off. Oh goodness. Now this can go in the parts bin. Now let's put it on our carbon fork. There we go. Let's seat it nice and tight on there. And that's actually a hot water heater element remover. So I just had that laying around and it happened to be the right size. So Good for me. All right, that is all ready to put on the bike. But bearings are not very well greased, so let's go ahead and grease those up before we reassemble all that. All right, that's gonna grease this bearing up. That also will help keep any loose ball bearings like that one from falling out again. All right, other bearings all greased up. So let's put all this back on the bike so we can measure how much we got to cut off of this this head tube. All right, we got to measure our stack height. So we'll put the fork on. All right, so that's marked. So now we got to pull it all off, and we got to cut this down to the proper height. All right, the way I like to cut it is how a lot of people do it. So I use an old stem as my saw guide. I put it about 1/8 of an inch below that line. Busted my knuckle open, but nice clean cut. And before you say something, yes, I know I'm supposed to use a torque wrench. I do not have one with me. I have one where this bike is going because it's going to my father. It's at our shop there. So I'm going to torque those down properly once I get there. But I'm just making them snug so it's tight enough to hold it all together, but not too tight where it's going to damage the carbon. Alright, so we are all set up. Now let's go ahead and install our new bars. So before I install the bars, I'm going to install the front wheel so it's a little bit more nose heavy, and it will make it sit on the bike stand easier. Alright. That allows it to sit on the bike stand a little bit easier. Now let's install our new bars. So as I stated before, we got some really nice carbon bars for this. Alright, first thing we're going to do before we put them on is put a little bit of carbon paste on them. That way they grip properly. That looks freaking awesome. Let me go and get the rest of those bolts in, and then we'll take a look at it. Alright. Wow. That looks really cool. Let me zoom out so y'all can see how awesome that looks. Isn't that so awesome looking? Alright, let's get the brakes on and the shifter on and start getting the grip tape on. So the problem I'm having is our cable is too short for our brake hose housing. Because honestly, it needs to be, well, that's going to be readjusted, but it needs to be right about there for it to work properly. Alright, so here's my solution. I checked my father, and here in America, we run our front brake on the left side and our back brake on the right side. But everywhere else they don't do that. So I just straight up asked him, how do you feel about running your brakes European style? And he said it shouldn't matter to him. We'll see. We're going to try it out, and if need be, I'm going to have to order longer brake hoses. But at least this gets them on the bike so you can enjoy it instead of having to wait. So I just need to tighten everything. We need to mount the lower brake caliper, but that's no big deal. We'll get that mounted. And we got to do grips, and I got some new pedals for them too. So let's go and start on that brake rotor. All right, so let's get this brake caliper mounted. I've done this a million times on the channel. But what is one more time? The big thing with doing this, you need to make sure you do not tighten these all the way until you squeeze your brake to compress on the disc itself, and that centers it, and then you need to tighten it. So if you've never done brakes before, that's how you do it. For those who have seen it, you've seen it a million times. So give me a second, let's get this mounted. And I'm going to run this opposite as normal. Normally I run it through the fork and then mount it, but my my brake hose mount is in a different location than I normally deal with, so I'm going to run it outside of the fork this time. So get it on the disc without touching the disc with my nice oily hands. And if you touch the disc, it's no big deal. It's not like it's going to explode. Just make sure you wipe down your disc after installation with rubbing alcohol, and that gets all the oils off of it, and that way your braking doesn't get affected by it. Now that I squeeze the brakes, it's centered, and I can fully tighten it. Well, that's not good.
Alright, so after a lot of fiddling, I figured out what's going on. So this says that it's set up for a 160 rotor. It is not. I had to use a converter to up it 20 millimeters. It was set up for a 140 rotor, and this is a 160. So that's actually a 160 to 180 converter that I took off my bike just to get this bike going. And I'll order a new one for my bike, it's no big deal. So, we figured out what's going on. So now it goes and stops. Now that that's done, let's put the pedals on.
Alright, the pedals we're using are the Rock Brothers. They're clip on one side and platforms on the other. I really like these pedals. They're not too expensive and they work really good, especially for bikes that, you know, sometimes you want to be clipped in, but sometimes you just want to go ride it. And that's why I like these, is because you don't always have to wear clips. So we're going to put these back on this bike. These actually came off our budget bike build. My dad's old bike, because he liked them so much he wants them on the new bike. So there we go. Alright, now when you do the grip tape, we're going with another Rock Brothers product. This is black and blue colored. I think it'll look really nice on this bike. And I've never wrapped grip tape on this type of bar, so we'll see how this goes. I imagine this is going to be just like installing any grip tape until I get to this part. And then, well, I think it's going to get interesting. When you do this, make sure you overlap it about half on each wrap. Alright, we're getting to the interesting spot. Should be able to do a wrap. And then just go down to here. And then start wrapping right here. And then we're going to bang this in the end to cap it off. Like that. Alright, let's get the other side. So the bike turned out great. I could not be happy with the results. I weighed the bike. We were about 3 pounds lighter with the conversion. I think these bars and this fork is really cool. We'll see how they hold up because they are, you know, more of a bargain fork and bars. But from what I can tell, they are really well made, and I'm pretty impressed with the quality. So I don't think we're having any problems, especially since it's going to be used as a gravel bike. But bike is done. Only thing left is to get it on the trail and have some fun. If you haven't subscribed, please do. It helps me out immensely. As always, thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.